Holon is a coastal city just outside Tel Aviv, south of Tel Aviv, primarily known for its large industrial zone. Founded in the late 1920s, it's now Israel's 10th largest city with a population of 200,000, representing all segments of Israeli society living together: Mizrahi, Ashkenazi, Sephardi Jews, Arab citizens, ultra-Orthodox and secular, every political party, and some stray Tel Aviv runaways amidst a strong working class base. It might not surprise you that there are over 80 Orthodox synagogues in Holon, in publicly funded buildings with state-paid rabbis. After all, Israel is a Jewish state. There is no church-state separation. But it should surprise you that there is not one liberal synagogue in the entire city. Perhaps you think the people of Holon just don't want that kind of Judaism. Well, that's what people told Reform Rabbi Galit Cohen-Kedem 15 years ago when she wanted to start a community. They said, this is not the Anglo upper middle class community that's attracted to reform. Nevertheless, she began Kahilat Kodesh V'chol with 4 or 5 people in her living room, just doing what Torah called her to do. First, with joyful, music-filled Shabbat services in her living room, life cycles, educating children, but also having people cook for mothers who had just given birth or people who were sitting Shiva, helping people who had small businesses get them off the ground, making shidduchs, meaning matches for people. Now, the community, with all this great work, grew and grew over the last 15 years, and it now has 230 dues-paying member families, which is particularly impressive because Israelis are not accustomed to paying dues in a state which completely funds Orthodox synagogues and rabbis. But 230 completely undersells this congregation's reach because they actually serve thousands of residents in the city in some way, whether it's through their 3 kindergartens that they run, their vibrant youth movement, or their B'nai Mitzvah classes. And they've grown all of this with 0 infrastructure. The community still has no building, and the rabbi works part-time. She says, we run on pioneer energy, doing services in parks and renting rooms in schools and gyms like a startup. Now, the Kehillah represents the diversity of Holon, most of them living paycheck to paycheck. Over the last year, 136 of their families struggled because at least one parent was away on reserve duty, or their small businesses suffered or collapsed. This community represents an Israel that has been hit very hard by the war, even though they are not living in the north or the south. When I asked Rabbi Cohen-Kedem how she grew her community from nothing, with nothing, she said, I knew Israeli Judaism has to address the core existential issues that we are facing, which is the alienation and breaking down of society. People no longer feel like they're part of a bigger people or a larger story. I don't ask them if they're reform, and I don't care. They're coming to us because here we will accept you for who you are. And it's joyful and inspired, and we need you. And you can be part of something, and you can feel less hopeless in the Middle East. People come to find other people who are like-minded, and also some who they don't agree with at all, but they still like because they serve something bigger together. Well, that sounds a lot like the kind of Judaism that we want to see in the world and the kind of Judaism we want to see in Israel and support. 11 years ago, this Kehillah filed a request for a land allocation for an egalitarian synagogue and community center, the first in Holon. And for 7 years, the government deliberately ignored the request. So finally, in 2020, the Israeli Religious Action Center, which is the legal arm of the reform movement in Israel, filed a petition and won a ruling that Holon must give this community a piece of land for their synagogue. And the municipality finally allocated it in December of 2023. But 2 months later, a new right-wing mayor was elected one who has been publicly vocal about his abhorrence of Reform Jews. He calls us Yehudanim, tiny insect Jews, which is a term that was coined by the Nazis. And when I say us, he wasn't just talking about Reform Jews in Israel. In 2021, he posted this choice tweet about Central Synagogue. The rabbi of a congregation in New York, the largest Reform synagogue in the world, she is the daughter of a Filipino mother. Not quite. The rabbi herself is not even Jewish. Despite the court order, this new mayor canceled the land allocation for the Reform congregation. How did a mayor like this get elected? I asked Rabbi Cohen Kedem. She said, well, the liberal moderate majority split their vote among 3 candidates, while the right wing picked a single candidate, and the Haredi and all the right-wing rabbis told their people to vote, and they all listened to their Rabbi. She said, we would have won if we'd put aside all our ideological small differences and just united. Why am I telling you this story tonight? Not to despair, but because tonight there is something that you can do. You and all of you watching on live stream. You can vote. You can't vote in Holon's municipal elections, but you can cast a vote in the election of the oldest Jewish parliament, the World Zionist Congress. This directly impacts this congregation in Holon, as well as hundreds of Jewish communities and non-governmental organizations that we want to support in Israel. The first World Zionist Congress of 1897, held in Basel, Switzerland, was convened by Theodor Herzl. And this august body of 200 delegates represented Jewish communities from 17 different countries. And they set this audacious goal for the Jewish people, the establishment of a Jewish homeland, and they set up funds to support it. Now, some of the goals of the World Zionist Congress have changed over the last 130 years or so, but every 5 years, every Jewish adult in the world gets to vote for their representative to this gathering, now held in Jerusalem, and to have a voice in the priorities of the Jewish state. About a third of the 500 delegates to this Congress will come from the American Jewish community. This year, I'm honored to be number 2 on the Vote Reform slate. So I'm asking for your vote to send me to the Parliament of the Jewish people in October. And if you want to know why your vote matters, you should know that this Congress will allocate over $5 billion of philanthropic money over the next 5 years. 30% of Rabbi Cohen Kedem's salary was paid for by allocations that were set by the last World Zionist Congress 5 years ago. I want to go to represent you, our values of this community, and I will allocate these funds for the funding of Jewish life like Holon and our priorities for the Jewish people. There are 21 different American slates. Most of them represent a relatively liberal brand of values. And there are only a few very traditional ones. And they are all voting the way their Rebbe is telling them to vote, in a block. Now, I'm not the kind of rabbi who's going to tell you how to vote. But I will tell you that if you feel a stake in the future of Israel, it is your responsibility to vote, all of you. And a powerful vote reform vote will not only send a message to other reform leaders to represent you in the World Zionist Congress and accomplish getting our vote there, it will send a very strong message to Israeli leaders, like the mayor of Holon, that American Jews care about the soul of the Jewish state. There were only 30,000 votes cast by all American Jews 5 years ago in the last election. That's really not a lot. There are more than 30,000 Jews in this room and watching our live stream right now. Think about that. Every vote counts, and together our vote is very powerful. If you all vote reform, you will help ensure that we build an Israel that lives up to our own aspirations, but also the aspirations that Israel stated in its own Declaration of Independence. Let me share a few of those words. To foster the development of the country for the benefit of all its inhabitants, based on freedom, justice, and peace as envisioned by the prophets of Israel, and ensure complete equality of social and political rights and guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. Let us vote reform and help make it so.